Hi, Darby Rollins here with Generative University, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating a workshop that is going through start to finish our current methodology for what I call MarketSauce, and that is the process we're using to create buyers briefs that are the foundation for any sort of marketing campaign and to help ultimately you connect with the best buyers and the best customers in your market. And so what you're going to see throughout the duration of this workshop is a conversation with myself and Kelly Tenney, who is our Director of Wisdom here and the founder of Teacher Brilliance, start to finish using her buyer's brief that we created together as an example, but walking through the different examples and ideas and use cases for a brief like this as a marketing asset for yourself and for your team. And so to preface this workshop, it's important to note that the current resources at the time of this recording on January 17th or 16th, January 16th, January 16th, 2024 is leading into the launch of our upcoming book in March, which we will be doing a live in-person hackathon event during the week of March 14th and a live virtual book launch on March 13th as well, which all of this will be made available to those who have pre-ordered the book and or have purchased a ticket to the in-person events. And we're currently enrolling folks and selling those tickets right now inside of our community. And you'll notice that the resources that I'm going to be demonstrating and walking through in this workshop are available to members of our paid community membership area. Just so that's abundantly clear as of right now when I'm posting this recording. That said, over the next few weeks and as we're leading up to March 14th for the book launch and the in-person hackathon, I will be releasing the book available for pre-order. And along with those pre-orders, you're going to gain some access to resources and marketing materials and training and guides and other things that will basically be your ticket to this live launch event, but also a number of other resources that we're going to be including within this book. And that's going to include a hub where you can access online inside of a member area these different resources for super easy use and access, and that's going to be hosted within our community. So all of that said, if you are a member of our community already, then you'll have access to this inside of the AI Growth Library right now. If you're not and you would like to be first in line to pre-order the book, which will then unlock this content, we just have to set the things up, get the tech working, and make sure that the product gets delivered to you right now. That may be available at the time of you watching this video or not, but if you're on our newsletter at jnaiuniversity.com, that's where you'll be first to hear about it, as well as subscribing to our YouTube channel. So all that said and done, this is a 90-minute workshop with myself and Kelly Tenney walking through top to bottom the current state of how we're delivering these buyer's briefs and how members of our community are creating their own buyer's briefs as well. This was filmed and recorded in front of a live audience, and so we do answer some questions. And if you drop your questions and comments and thoughts below on this video, we'll be checking on those and getting back to you there as well. So all that said, keep calm AI on. Make sure you subscribe here and to our newsletter at jnaiuniversity.com, and keep your eyes out for the upcoming book launch and more information on that. All right, let's dive in. Hello, and welcome in, everybody. Darby Rollins here, founder of Generative University, joined as well with our head director of wisdom, Kelly Tenney. Great to see you here today, Kelly.
Good morning.
And everyone here joining with us live and watching the recording, I'm excited to give you a really thorough demonstration here and hopefully educate you on a lot of the nuggets and the important insights that you'll find throughout running the MarketSauce Method workflow. So what this entire workshop today is going to be is a demonstration and a walkthrough of how I am currently going about creating these buyer briefs, which are at their core the foundation of creating any sort of content with AI or without of AI. Having a solid content brief in general is going to be really helpful for getting your message across loud and clear to your target audience. And the buyer's brief focuses in specifically on those segments of your market and multiple segments of the market that maybe you are currently marketing to or haven't even considered. We're going to be going through how we're running this process now as it leads up to our upcoming book launch that will cover this in even more detail than you're going to get today. But also, we're going to be highlighting bunches of different case studies for how people are taking this buyer's brief and then applying it inside of their business. And Kelly is one of our early use cases adopters. She's been using this workflow in her business for well over a year now, I think at this point. And so I wanted Kelly to be on here with us because we're going to be having additional calls and boot camps and trainings throughout the next few weeks, the next few months, and the rest of the year to help you with putting this into action and to ultimately taking these ideas and insights from this brief into actionable impact that you are then using to grow your business. So Kelly, you have you've had the opportunity to get one of these briefs. We worked together a few weeks ago to start putting yours into one comprehensive brief, and you started using it for yourself. And so before we get into showing you guys how to walk through and move this workflow, I want to encourage everyone here live to share where you're at right now and say, hey, let us know where you're tuning in from. But Kelly, how are you currently using this this buyer's brief inside of your existing content production workflow and your business?
Well, what I found is, and I think this is true, and a lot of you have heard me talk about things like this on the boot camp, but when we're creating content, right, we are, most of us are using tools like ChatGPT to help us with content creation. We know enough to be able to, train ChatGPT on or Claude on who our avatar is, what our niche is, even some of the pain points and things like that. And I feel like that's very much the foundation that many people kind of come from when using AI to create content and, different forms of content they're creating. But what I found with this brief is that, number one, the amount of information that comes out of this brief, I think, is just invaluable. Like, I don't know how many hours or how much I would have had to invest to actually get this much insight on my avatars, on their pain points, right, and things like that. So that's the first thing. But with all of that information, now that I have it, I feel like it's been able to really take my content creation to that next level, to be able to give our AI tools just that much more information so that the results we're getting are truly like customized and refined. And it's been interesting because I feel like I've been on a good roll within my Teacher Brilliance business in terms of my 30-day program and things like that. But when I kind of took all of that more in-depth information from my buyer's brief and really started to give it some of that, and all of you will see what the different components are, but, give it some of those, the bad habits or the false solutions, right, and things like that. I've noticed that it's really tweaked my content to the point of where I now was questioning, well, was my content really that effective before, right? And I know it's effective because I have people in my programs and things like that. But now I realize just how much more customized and specific my content is. And I really see it now truly like putting me on the next level in terms of standing out among other people that do course creation. Because I think all of us come from that marketing knowledge of, you have to know their pain points, you have to know their goals, you have to know, and me and every other course creator out there is, coming at it with those same pain points and goals and things like that. But this brief truly gives the depth of information that allows me to, one, really create content that truly resonates, but also I think stands out because now I'm not talking about the same pain points that everybody else is. I've been able to really refine and get like that nitty gritty, like true content that's going to resonate with each of my avatars. Not to mention, I now have like, I don't know, 8 more avatars than I currently thought I did because of like the amount of segmentation and insight that this brief has given me. So it's been, I'm so glad that I have it to kick off the new year.
Yeah, and some great points there, Kelly. And one thing that I'll add on to that we're kicking off the new year with this is that this is a process that is very um, that you need to have feedback and the human element inside this process in terms of not just creating your first brief, but where do you want to go from there? Because with not just AI, but in general, that's how the market is changing in 2024 is a totally different landscape from just a few years ago. And what is motivating people to buy right now and what is driving people to do certain things and take certain actions. And that's constantly evolving. And like you said, Kelly, you've now discovered 8 different avatars within your market that you were not catering or building content or messaging around and addressing specifically. And so that's the challenge I want to leave everybody here with. If you take nothing else away from this workshop today, it's that if you are selling a product or service to a specific targeted audience, right? Who is that buyer, whether it's B2B or it's B2C, business to business, business to consumer. There's a human on the other end of the screen that's reading these words or hearing your voice or watching your content. Who is that one specific person? And that is who I'd want to start with creating my initial buyer's blueprint. But what you'll discover, as you'll see here, and we're walking through every section of the blueprint, you might think you're marketing to one particular audience, but could there be 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 20 or more different target audience, different segments of a market that have hyper specific pain points that they're experiencing right now that your offer or service could actually address if it was repositioned in a way that was meant to address them at that particular stage of where they're at in the market and where they're at in the buying process. And if you have one, you probably have 2 or 3 other ones, markets and segments that you could be targeting right now. And if you have 2 or 3 other ones, you probably got 2 or 3 more from those segments. And so the reason that I started calling this market sauce is not only because I'm a hot sauce aficionado, as is my fiance, but like we had this idea. This was a few years ago. We were going to make our own hot sauce brand, and we were testing it out. And we'd go and buy all these different hot sauces and start playing around with them and seeing which ones had different flavors, spices. You know, got jalapeno, habanero, the ghost peppers, all the different things that go into making a hot sauce. But some peppers have a lot more heat to them. Some are a lot more mild, and not every container of hot sauce is the same. Though you might get a packet that is, you know, the classic Cholula, and it's got a pretty consistent taste all the time. But then you have all these different sub niches of hot sauce out there for so many different things, and that's how I'm seeing when I'm thinking through MarketSauce and I'm running these recipes. I'm like, wow, I never thought that market or that segment of the market had this different bit of flavor to it that actually creates an entirely new character that we can build stories around, whether it's the hero's journey and kind of like, oh, well, I didn't even think that I could have a hero's journey for this area of the market that I hadn't considered. But now this is opening you up to a whole new world of possibilities and potential for serving more people in your business. And so the reason I wanted to lay the groundwork with this workshop and show you how I'm actually going through and completing these for ourselves and our clients and our customers that are ordering them just done for you is because it's the way that I'm approaching it is very iterative, but it's also like the same every time, but we're getting better every time we run it. And so we're taking that feedback loop and adding in more sections and things of that from the feedback of our customers. And so as you get more feedback from your own product, services, and markets, you can then feed that back in, run another edition of these briefs, and then take that brief and continue to refine and build on top of it and use that to, again, clarify and refine your marketing message. And as Derek says here, joining with us live, before we dive in to every section of what this brief is going to be, I'm going to be sharing resources with you guys that are going to be available for our members of our AI Growth Library and community. So make sure that if you're watching this live or you're watching the recording, somewhere around this video, you're probably going to have a link to wherever you can subscribe to our membership if you're not already a member. But since we're doing this live, just give us a few days to get this recording and all the resources up, as well as the GPTs and the different recipes. What Derek says here, saying, hey, from a very cold 18 degrees in Dallas, very cold here in Austin as well. Looking forward to using this this new sauce to create more in-depth blueprints for my offers. And Derek's been running these, for months and months now, and continues to take these processes and integrate them. So I want to say shout out to you, Derek, for that, and everyone else here, Kevin, Carolyn, Mark, Michael, for tuning in with us live. Let's go on in and dive through what the 5.0, the most current edition at the time of this recording, which will certainly be outdated by the time we publish our book. So you're getting it here live right now, what the most up-to-date iteration of this whole workflow looks like. And hopefully you guys will see, as well as I'm sharing my screen in the process, how no matter how good you think you are with AI, that there's stuff that will still likely go wrong. And because I've learned that in the past, we're not going to be running active recipes for you guys here today. I'm going to be walking you through the copy and paste of these workflows so you can see. And if we have some time, I might show how these work. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Kelly, can you just give me the thumbs up on your end when you can see? Okay, cool.
Yep.
So you guys can see my screen. We're looking here at just a quick overview of the workshop. And so this is just to set, again, the stage for what we're going to be digging into over the next 60 minutes or so. This is really designed for the business owner, for the entrepreneur who really wants to deeply understand their target audience in order to create high converting messaging and offers, whether you're a salesperson for your company, you're the founder of your company, whether you're on the marketing team, or you're running a business and you're looking for ways that you can most effectively create higher converting campaigns. MarketSauce is going to help you do just that. This is going to be obviously a virtual workshop. We're going to be going through top to bottom the current edition of the Buyer's Brief today, January 16th, 2024. And again, you're going to walk away. My goal is for you to walk away here with a deeper understanding of your target audience and a workflow to help you achieve that understanding, as well as unlocking their motivations and crafting messages that more powerfully resonates with them, and ultimately to help you take your ideas and turn those into impact faster. And so we'll be walking through the step-by-step, literally copy and paste how we're going about creating these documents. Of course, we're going to be using AI to leverage inside of the process. We'll show you through a few examples, one including Kelly's Teacher Brilliance, and the resources you can use to execute this themselves. And so what I'm going to share right now with those of you with us live, and if you're on the recording or you're watching this recording and wondering where these resources are, they are going to be inside of our membership, inside of our growth library. And why do you want these resources? Well, if you want to do what I'm going to show you inside of this workshop, then you'll most certainly want these resources at your disposal. Let me do this real quick. I'm going to make sure that you guys can view and access this. I recommend, if you're here with us live, go ahead and make a copy of this inside of the chat. And what we're looking at here, MarketSauce, I'm going to show you a really quick overview of all the monumental amount of prompts that we're going to walk through here. And also emphasize that I'm not trying to say these are the 10,000 prompts that are going to save your life and make you $1 million. These are all the prompts that I'm currently using in the sequence and the stack and the order to execute what this is right now, a whole lot of prompts. Quite literally everything in here is a prompt that I'm using, an instruction to the AI specifically to execute this content. So as you can see, we're going to be covering a lot. And the biggest difference in and maybe some similarities that what some of you have seen inside of our $100 million AI business growth workflow is some of this MarketSauce method is pulled from that workflow, as well as some additional workflows that we've created over the past several months. And I'm going to lead you all the way back down here through the micro content questions. And I kept in the viral vision, which just a quick I'm going to say this is a bonus because I'm not actively doing this for every single MarketSauce, but I did include the GPT that you guys can use to do research for trending and viral videos based on the market that you're going to be targeting. And so ultimately we get all the way to the conclusion, and this is how I'm wrapping it up as we're delivering these to our own customers and clients. Just a conclusion, implementation guide, and an introduction to this content. And it's all in all an 18-page document that we're going to run. That's really quickly. Good to see you back, Kelly. I don't know if you got off of camera, but I wanted to show what this is going to turn into. So we've got here a demonstration of a completed version of this MarketSauce with Teacher Brilliance, Kelly's company. And so now every section here, starting with the introduction, as you noticed, I ended with the introduction, which is I often do that when creating content with AI, is you create the content first from the idea, and then I'll write an introduction that leads into that content after the fact. Just a personal approach that I take with it, but it helps to give a good summary of something that's already been said when the introduction comes after the content's produced. But basically what we've run through is the top to bottom, kind of the product description, market segment, business role, and a general market analysis for Kelly. And then we start running it through part 1 all the way through, I think it's part 5 right now is how we're building it out. So we've got part 1, the master buyer's blueprint. So this is going to be that big overview of what Kelly gave me from her content when she submitted this project to me. And it was, Kelly, maybe you can give a little bit of an idea about what you had submitted with this, just like a really quick overview if you want to come off mute, for like what started to feed this information initially.
Yeah, so, it was a really simple process. And basically, Darby had sent me a form. The form I really appreciated because I thought it was really focused. It allowed me to know exactly what kind of information you need in order to get the best results for this brief. So that was really helpful. And it, a lot of the things that you see here on the screen was just some of that foundational information from, where are my clients, to, what is their occupation? What are their pain points? What are my offers? What are they trying to solve? So when I went through the form that you sent, I really felt like it was just a lot of the information that, we often think about giving to ChatGPT about our background, right? About, again, who we're trying to serve, what our services are, what sets us apart, what's our expertise. So it was a really familiar process, which I appreciated. It wasn't anything that I really had to dig deep around, although I will say that I recognize the value in possibly going back and having this run for some different like sub components of Brilliance. Obviously with this one, we went with like the micro course creation piece, but many of us have different arms or different branches of our business. And so now that I see how specific these results are, again, I can see the power in going back through and rerunning it for like a slightly different niche or a slightly different offer.
That's great. Thank you, Kelly. And again, all to the point of why I'm showing you guys how to walk through this whole thing is because once you know how to do it once and you see the results, you can immediately see then where are 2 or 3 other ways that I can apply this and run this for different areas of my business that you probably do need 2 or 3 of these briefs for different audiences, different markets, different offers that you've got. And so that's what we're creating here with this entire workflow. And so we get part 1. Again, it's going deeper into what Kelly said that she'd already answered. And it's like we've been preaching here for the last 2-3 years at GenAI University, and that it's the content brief that you're initially providing, that context of who am I, who do I serve, what do I do, how do I help, like just basic questions that if you can answer those clear and concisely as the business owner or entrepreneur, that is going to focus in the AI's outputs. Very, very helpful to get clear on what those basic questions are for context, but how much information we can pull from that context. And so primary topic, primary complaints, you can see how, I'm not going to run through all these right now. I'm going to jump into how you would actually go through and create each of these sections as well. But you can see how all of that recipe, or the workflow I showed you that you guys have access to, for as a member of our community, for how you would go through and start to create all of this content, which of course it's a lot of content. And that's the point with creating this content specifically around these blueprints, is that this would take people hours, if not days or weeks, to do the old traditional way. But now we're using AI to speed that entire process up. I really like now that ChatGPT has connecting to Bing and is able to search stuff. It makes it so much faster to research things like negative statistics that you can use in your marketing. And so this is an example of some people that ordered, or that we were doing some of these for like 3 months, 6 months ago, might not have gotten this type of output inside of the negative statistics, because ChatGPT might not have had the level of access to Bing. And going through that process as we were running through, again, we're building and iterating on this a lot, but now inside of, because you can't do this right now inside of Claude, is why I highlight that. Claude's not going to go out and research Bing and then pull in links, but Chat can. So you say, oh, that's a good article for me to research. Oh, this is an important statistic that I can go and, again, fact check it real quick, Kelly. And then, oh, how can I share this article with some thoughts on top of it? Bad habits, secondary goals, right? Things that you can create in, topics and blogs and micro content around. And so we go through creating all of this content for this in-depth brief, which again, as I'm walking you through, when we get to the creative brief section, you're going to see the sales arguments and all of these that, while like, again, 6 months ago, this brief was literally probably a quarter, if not a fifth of the size of what we're getting right now with this particular workflow. And how we get there, again, is very simple. I'm going to start back up at the top and show you how we started things out with the introduction, overview, that sort of thing. I'm going to tab over now to the thread that started it all. The one thread that I began creating Kelly's Teacher Brilliance Buyer's Brief for. And this is quite literally the context that Kelly provided. So you can see here what was said to kick this process off, and how we go to initiate this process with copying and pasting the instructions here inside of ChatGPT. So Kelly, I agree, Kelly, Teacher Brilliance, 7-figure coaches and consultants looking to automate their lead generation, right? The basic information that you were answering inside of the intake form. Kelly is giving me the context here that we want to be creating the brief from. Once I copy and paste this, I think I grabbed this from another thread that I might not have been found. So I'm going to paste in like my user inputs and just try to consolidate what Kelly is telling me here. And copy and paste this, business goes and rolls. And so I'm trying to be as smooth as possible as I'm showing you guys top down in this recording, like understanding that this is quite a bit of context that we're coming in through here. So I'm going to try and verbally walk you through the different areas as we're going from the top down. But you see here the market analysis. This was sort of my my starter I guess context prompt, if you will, for setting this is the initial instructions that I want ChatGPT to understand as its role and goal, and giving me this context around what Kelly has provided me on her input. Kelly's input is right here with the context. I did get a little bit of extra information. I realized this is from another thread that didn't quite go the way that I wanted it on the initial run. So I had to start a new ChatGPT thread, and I just gave it some of the basic information it gave me to help beef up the content brief. And so once I've pasted that context in with these instructions, I've tabbed over back to the 5.0 workflow workshop with these instructions. Let me see. Where is it? Is it like I said, guys, like when I'm running through this stuff, like it's not just a magic finger. It just happens perfectly every single time. There's quite a lot of bit of, as I call it, fuck around and find out with these AI tools. I say that in the most endearing way possible, using vulgar language, because sometimes ChatGPT does not get that I just gave it the context. Same thing with Claude. It doesn't always pick up the fact that I just gave it this context. And so why I say that, and I'm going to highlight my my cursor here to make it easier for you guys to follow along, where I'm talking through as you're going through and doing this side by side. I give it the context here and I give it the instructions. I gave it the constraints and guidelines and clarifications and all of that stuff. And then this is what ChatGPT said to me. It said, to begin, you'll need to specify this information. And so I was like, no, I already gave you that information, right? Sometimes it just picks up the fact that I say user input at the top. Sometimes it doesn't. In this case, I said, okay, I just copied and pasted in the context again. So that's what you're seeing right here. I just copied and pasted it again to say, okay, here's the context I gave you. Help me out now. Great. Based on the information provided, let's outline the buyer's brief 5.0. So now what it did is it kicked off those initial instructions that I gave it. Product or service description, service, micro course creation, amplified with AI, focused on educational design, value proposition, assisting. So it's taking what Kelly gave me and it's organizing it now into these really clean bullet points, service, value prop, and starting with that higher level demographic overview. So like, what's the high level demographic, the geographic focus, psychographics. It's giving me these initial guidelines to start the rest of the workflow from. And this by itself is helpful. And one of the reasons that I included in this, one of the tools for you guys to have access to was this Buyer's Blueprint 2.2, as well as the 5.0, which quite frankly, I'm just going to put WIP because this thing can still get a little funky. I ran Kelly's, I think, starting inside of this GPT, but I've noticed that with as large as the instructions that I'm running this entire workflow through, it'll often skip over a number of the outputs that I'm looking for inside of the blueprint. And so I've included the blueprint 2.2 because that really consistently, when you guys run through this blueprint, it will go through and give you the 2.0 version of what this workflow is for. The 5.0 is going to include a lot more content on top of that. And so, like, for example, now to go and get this initial start of the content brief, you can go a few different ways. You can go into the resources, the tools here. You can use the 2.2, which is what has turned into I'm building out in the 5.0 buyer's brief. That is this entire recipe workflow that we're walking through here. They're both super handy and valuable. If you want to just get quick buyer's briefs, I would just take the same content brief that I'm doing with Kelly and paste that into the blueprint 2.2, and it's going to go and start executing similar sort of outputs right away. And so I wanted to give you guys this GPT so you can start to kind of generate and get the process going like immediately with that. This thing caps out after the more condensed version of the blueprint and doesn't go into the entire buyer's brief. But this will help with getting that initial part and everything started off to a great foot very fast, just with giving it some context and information. And as you can see here, thankfully, ChatGPT is being nice and friendly to us today. So it's going through and executing that content as we're creating it. Inside of, let me pull this down here. So you can see we're doing it copy and paste manually now inside of how we're building out Kelly's and specifically. So as I'm building out her content, key messaging, here's the product description that we got again. And so again, you see the similarities in the 2.2 brief versus like how this one got started. I'll show you, I'll point out where we're going to start to see it expand a little bit more. Now, when we get into part 1 with the 5.0 workflow, we're going to be using and building off this thread right here, the buyer's blueprint. So now you've already copied in this context into your thread. You've given it the additional context of your product, your service, or your offer. And now we're going to be going into the buyer's blueprint, right? And so here, let's see how I ran this one. Start here. So here I copied the start here as a world-class marketer, analyze segment. Once the segment is next, start here, primary goal, create one primary goal for the segment related to niche. And then here's the primary goal topic, complaints and topic and goals. Okay, so that's one copy and paste. What that means is I went here. Might look a little bit different just because I may have updated the recipe since I did Kelly's run. But basically, I copied all of this, primary goal topic, all the way down to the secondary goals right here. So I copied that. I pasted it into my chat GPT. Oops, not that one. Pasted that into my chat GPT. And now because my GPT thread has the context from Kelly, knows what I'm talking about with Teacher Brilliance, I ran it through again with that next first part 1 copy and paste. And so again, geographic, demographic, psychographic, behaviors, pain points, and now I'm getting into the primary goals. So the reason I'm not just trying to copy and paste the entire workflow just at once, and I'm doing it kind of start and doing it in multiple chunks, is because I still, as I'm generating this content, I'm reading through it. I'm saying, okay, primary goal, efficiently automating lead generation and customer journey. Like, to me, based on what Kelly had given me as context, this makes sense. I mean, maybe it's not the ultimate end all be all primary goal, but based on what Kelly gave me, this is the assessment that ChatGPT helped me come to. And all of this additional context is going to be related to that initial primary goal. And so I want to make sure that the primary goal is going in the right direction, and then everything from there is following. I want to make sure that I'm keeping my hands on the wheel, so to speak, that I know that it's not just going completely off the rails. So we go into now the secondary complaints, operational challenges, time-consuming leave magnets, right? These are all objections that we can, or challenges that we can throw stones at, that we can help people, step across Hell Island and make their way over to Heaven Island. All of these complaints are things that are stopping people from, ultimately working with Kelly in this case. And so if these are issues, then maybe Kelly, you're reading these and you can see which ones are more valid, which ones have you heard more consistently, which ones are the number one in priority, that sort of thing. And then we just keep going down to complaints, additional topics and examples, to goals. And so once we get done with that one initial section, we're going to move on to the next. And you guys watching this right now, whether you're here with us live on the recording and you're considering creating one of these yourself, you're learning through the process in our community, or you want to just have us do one of these for you, this is the current state of the process. And I'm chunking it down like this because there's so many prompts. I want to preserve the quality of my thread more than I want to just create more content in one batch, and like it ends up not being at the level that I want. And so that was the first run. Now the second section is a deeper dive into the dreams, objections, the negative feelings, the stuff we've already kind of touched on, but I want to go deeper. So now I'm going to copy here down to, I want to say it's the overview section. So everything in the overview section, I just ran this at one point, psychosocial deep dive. And now I'm prompting it with all these additional questions, right? And I think this is something that you're not going to get as deep into this in this framework inside of the 2.2 GPTs. See a few questions on that in the chat. But once I paste in this section, now instead of just like one or two dreams that are kind of the high level overview, now I'm going even deeper. I'm unfolding more of these potential dreams. So we got overview dreams, legacy, financial freedom, global influence, creating community, sustainable growth. Overview objections, right? Some more objections, negative feelings, ultimate fears, promises, and then we pause out there. Moving on to the next section, which is causes the mistaken beliefs. And so what are some mistaken beliefs? Mistaken beliefs, I have the definition here to help keep AI on track, but it's beliefs that your prospect may hold that they use as reasons not being able to achieve primary goal. So what are these mistaken beliefs and what is the truth as it might be able to relate back to that? And so I have more causes, things that people might hear, triggers, consequences, things of that nature. And then we go deeper into that. So you copy and paste the next section from the causes right here, all the way on down to, I think we ended up right there, the primary cause defined. And we paste it, we run it. And again, as we're running any of these and you're running them for yourself or for clients, not every initial output will be perfect necessarily. Sometimes it might start to go off the rails. Sometimes it might max out because you gave it too much context initially. This is where I'm like really just trying to kind of make sure that all of the outputs here are in line with the thread that I'm giving it. And I'm doing it in chunks because sometimes ChatGPT can tend to time out if I provide too many prompts, expect too long of an output. So just kind of keeping an eye on the process as everything unfolds. I have a question about just putting the second round of prompts in without having ChatGPT refer to the previous context. It's a great point. And depending on how ChatGPT is feeling on a particular day and time, as weird as it sounds to say that, you might need to provide additional prompts here. And I'll show you where I would provide that. I tend to find that Claude, when we're running a similar type of workflow in Claude sometimes has been forgetting that you've been giving it context inside of new threads. I haven't ran into that as much with chat, but sometimes you'll see that as well. So for example, this, I'm just copying and pasting the prompts in like you see over here inside of the workflow, copying and pasting these in here. And as it should work, not always how it does work, but as it should work, it's referencing the thread in the context above, and it's keeping on down that initial line. Sometimes you might run this context and it says, please provide context, or it starts talking about something completely different entirely. If that's the case, I would add an additional prompt here that just says something along the lines of reference all of the context above for how you're going to execute these prompts and continue on. You might just have to give it a little bit more push to like understand that context. But again, depending on how the technology is working on a particular day, sometimes you run into ChatGPT having an attitude or just not wanting to understand the context unless you're really, really specific. So again, AI is going to AI. And if it is not acting that way, then maybe give it some more instructions to follow the context. But we keep moving on down to the mistaken belief. And if you're having trouble with it continuing on, I would just say, again, as this prompt goes, like, what are some bad habits? Reference the context above to make sure that you are creating content in line with the current context provided. Just whatever you say, just tell it to read the content above as the context for the prompts that you're giving it. You can say it multiple different ways. And as you continue to get the context out, cause triggers, right? And we're going to get into more of these sections here as we wrap through the end of this, but I want to show you how we're copying and pasting, getting the outputs here. Like one of these can take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes to sometimes an hour and a half plus if ChatGPT is being slow or if I'm not getting the outputs. And I'm saying that's from me running these personally over the past few months for other people and customers. So it does vary. And some days I just use Claude for this whole process. So just keep that in mind as you're going about this process. Like adaptability as technology is changing is going to impact the outputs of these recipes, sometimes for the better, sometimes it's just being funky. So just keep that in mind. I ran into a pause here that I'm gonna emphasize real quick. As you see, we're generating the content down to the cause triggers. I paused it here on purpose because I've found that with some of these copy and paste prompts inside of the thread, ChatGPT would just time out red words. I broke. You have to regenerate the response. Sometimes I had a really good output that would just get lost because the last paragraph cut off. So what I would start doing, and am starting to do, is just keeping an eye on kind of like the general output length, clicking pause if I think it's kind of going over what an average normal time would be given the output I'm looking for. And then I'm typing continue and it picks things back up right where I left off when you do that. So it continues with the primary cause defined. Then we're moving into consequences part 2, negative statistics, bad habits. And once I generated the negative statistics, all it did this time is I showed you from earlier in this demonstration, you had 10 like researched links, Kelly, that didn't come from the initial run. I said, I would really like to see some negative stats and research articles. Start back at the top and search Google for articles that provide citations for supporting evidence in cases that demonstrate these stats, right? And so it did that. I got the content, and then I still had to copy and paste these manually because I haven't figured out a really more efficient way yet to export these. Took a few minutes, but just sometimes copying and pasting the actual links from here can be a little finicky. And yeah, so like as we are getting that content out, now we're moving back down to the secondary goals. And so we're slowly but surely executing, copy pasting, and getting the contents out that we want for a comprehensive brief like this. And so as I get this, goals, secondary goals, same thing, going to give me the outputs, going to give me the topic, goal descriptors, suggested USPs. This was a suggestion from one of our initial customers who we started working with this on in December of 2023, who said, hey, this was great. Like they liked it. I said, is anything that could be done to make it better? I said, oh, well, for the goal descriptors, it might be nice to see how we would put that in action. So we added this in, and like, this is one of the things you won't see on one of the earlier GPTs or versions of this, that now that we have the goal descriptors, what is a potential like USP or positioning statement that we can use as part of that from that goal descriptor? And, just again, we're always, just to say that you might find that as you're going through this for yourself or for a client or anything, that there's a specific prompt that you would really love that you'd love to see inside of one of these for an output. Well, one, you can tell us what you'd like to see inside of this workflow. Two, if you're a member of our community, you have access to the source prompts for this. So you can make your own versions of it, right? You can paint your own canvas with the prompts that you see in this stack and adapt them to your own workflows. So just keep that in mind as you're going through here and you're getting ideas. Feel free to experiment with that. We're moving back on another copy and paste of the false solutions. So false solutions, it's a limitation. And again, we're going through all these different sections. I'm going to have all of this broken down and much more context and detail around every one of these sections in the book when it comes out. So we literally don't have time for me to walk through the definitions of every one of these with use cases for each in particular one. But that's why books are great. And that's why Kelly is going to be hosting bootcamp calls, creating micro courses around like different sections of this so that we can have really specific actionable pieces of content that are tied to like use cases and outcomes. We're getting a lot of really great feedback on the expensive alternative section. As we come there, this is the bottom of the buyer's blueprint. This is about like, what are the alternates compared to what you're providing that you might want to be aware of, or let your customers know that, there's a lot more ways that you can spend a lot more money for maybe a lot less effective results, right? Depending on what you're what you're selling or offering as a service. Offer benefits, right? With this offer, without this offer, and offer reframes, right? So how are you reframing your product or service you're offering to people at different stages of their journey? And then here is where we're starting to get like really peeling the layers of the onion back, because Kelly gave me the 7-figure coaches and consultants offer targets. We've got emerging coaches and consultants. We have established business leaders that Kelly could work with. We've got tech savvy entrepreneurs. We've got scaling small businesses, busy professionals, innovative educators, data-driven managers, customer-focused businesses, creatives. Kelly, you want to come off real quick now that we're getting down to this point real quick? We've covered so much context that we can dive into, from the psychological, the demographical, the geographical aspects of our customers, the dreams, fears, hopes, desires, problems. And now you've given me one target market, and now I've given you 10 more with this. Like, where's your head at as you're going through and as you've consumed all of this content here? What are some shifts that you've had from just the blueprint, but also where do you see these different offer targets applying within your marketing strategy, and where are you taking action on this information just with the first part of this blueprint?
So I started, working through the blueprint, and, Darby, you and I have talked about this a lot. And so for everybody, watching, you probably understand this. When you get an extensive document like this, right, you know that every piece of content in it is just it has the potential to be a game changer for your business. But it's not a game changer for your business if you don't use it, right? Or if you don't know what to do with it. And I think that that's probably one of the biggest pain points that I know that I saw, that I know a lot of people are going to see, is it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. How do I make sure that I'm using this to actually take action and make changes in my business so that, this information is benefiting me? Because obviously, if we don't know how to use it or know what to do with it, then it's not going to really make an impact. So when I got the document, I started going through section by section, very similarly to like what you have done, and just showing us what each piece is. And I started running prompts through ChatGPT using small sections of this information, right? So to answer your question around all of these different audiences, one of the things that I did with that specific section is recognizing, like you said, okay, I gave you one avatar, but now it's given me a bunch of different potential, not only potential avatars, but the arguments of those avatars and things like that. So I have like a go-to lead magnet that I give out. I probably have 2 lead magnets that are commonly ones that I will give in a summit or something like that. And the first thing that I wanted to find out is, lead magnets are how I bring in leads, right? It's how I build my list. So I wanted to know if my current lead magnets actually meet all of these new avatars. So one of the first things that I did with that section on these different avatars is I asked Chat to help me, one, brainstorm ideas for lead magnets for the following avatars. And it came up with like an ebook for automating your business, webinars for overcoming challenges in business using AI. It talked about giving them a mini course. It talked about having like an AI guide to micro course creation. And so one, I was really validated in the fact that 2 of my lead magnets did show up on that brainstorm. But the other thing that it did is it gave me some new ideas that I haven't thought about yet, right? That potentially could meet some of these new avatars. And then what I did is I took, all of those avatars and I asked GPT to find commonalities in the challenges and the goals of all of those avatars. And then once it gave me the commonalities, I asked it to modify its ideas for lead magnets to come up with lead magnets that would address all of the commonalities. Because obviously the last thing I want to do is go and create 12 new lead magnets for each of those avatars. But I certainly now know that I'm probably leaving clients, leads on the table if I'm not somehow speaking to them. So GPT was really helpful once I gave it all of those avatars and helping me come up with like, what do they all have in common? And now what are some lead magnets that might resonate with all of them? And of course, from there, then it's like, now what are some blog topics that could resonate with all of them? So I'm really using that insight again to recognize that there are probably buckets of clients that I'm leaving on the table, and then, leveraging AI and helping me figure out what are some pieces of content that would resonate with all of them, so I can start to, reach more people with, with my content.
Cool. Yeah, and that's a great that's great, Kelly. Thank you for breaking that down for us.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes to show how I think instrumental just the research aspect of creating content in general is, and there's so much opportunity that is right there, underneath our nose, that AI can help us with discovering and finding those commonalities to make the smarter decisions about the content we do produce. And then it's about putting that into action, right? We were talking right before this call about putting, some sort of event challenge course together for video production, right? And getting a video podcast up. But this brief would lead directly into informing an ideation around content that you would produce on a video podcast. And then, of course, we can use AI tools to help with chopping up the content, posting it on YouTube. But once you post it, analyze the results, what videos are hitting more, what you need to tweak the headlines, test different things out, and then take the feedback from that content and then run it maybe through another brief and see what are some additional, what content is resonating more with my audience, what are some ways I can go deeper here, and then continue going down that process again and again to discover the real gold, which is within the niches, within these segments that, again, this is the work that the average marketer is probably not going this deep on all the different segments and stuff in the audience. But when you talk to marketers that are working with B2B, like media buyers and, building out customer journeys for massive companies, you're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of different buyer segments and personas that you could be potentially like reaching and understanding. And so knowing which ones are your top core buyer persona, the perfect people that you want to be building these blueprints for, that are your core audience that drive and you're really what your business is built around, then what are those other core pillars of audiences that you could, if not now, that you could build towards and expand and grow your business on by serving different segments of the market with potentially the same offer, and just creating different lead magnets to attract them and get those hands to raise. So that's where we end the blueprint, and getting another series of ideas for offer targets. So the next stage that we're going from here is, well, that's great. We've got a blueprint. We've got the research done. Now I'm going to move on to part 2, which is the strategic and creative brief, which how I'm running this next section of the buyer's brief is down here in part 2 of the document. You see we've got the audience and then different segments of that audience that we're going to be targeting. And we're going to get into create campaign ideas, brand style guides, that sort of thing. We can see how Kelly's ended up from her blueprint. We've taken this and we've distilled down now what is everything we've talked about. How can we, what is the promise ultimately that Kelly is delivering on here? And what I found with this section is that it's really great for getting 80% of the way there, but I still tend to need to chop up unnecessary words with AI because it'll try to be a little too verbose. I want stuff more concise. Maybe you said the same thing in 8 words that I can say in 2. And so a lot of this part is getting it here to where I'm now chipping away and removing stuff that I don't need, but I'm trying to capture the core essence about the promise and the problem and the solution right here. And as clear and concise as I can get to that, who has the problem, and let's go into all of those different segments now that we've just covered, and how can we identify those problems and then back it up with the benefits and features of our product to serve and deliver to helping that segment of the market specifically. And so we'll start with a copy and paste of the promise, problem, solution, and then the audience. And what that'll look like is this. It starts to, again, taking the context that we provided with that blueprint, going into the problem, solution, elaborating on that, and then we're getting into the avatars. We're going right back into all those top 10 avatars that we just created. And so emerging coaches. And theoretically, you could take any number of these specific avatars that the top 10 that we gave at the end of the blueprint. You could go back through and create a buyer's blueprint specifically for that avatar and then run this process again. Like there's numbers of different ways that you could slice this to go deeper and deeper and deeper. So just keep that in mind as you're going through here, is that some of these may warrant their own blueprints specifically, because you'll see enough differences that the psychographics and all of that stuff is there's going to be different types of marketing and messaging that you want to create about that. For here, this is giving us that at a glance overview of these top 10. And whenever I ran into stopping, I'd say, okay, rerun it with the problem and promise. So I reran that one time here. What else happened? It's running it again. The audience, it's giving me the audience, and it would stop at like number 5. And so I'd just say, okay, do all 10 from the offer targets. And so it continued on and started doing all 10. And this is how I got all 10 of that section. And from there, for the creative and strategic brief, we're taking the the market segments that we're going to be targeting, and then we're creating like a micro essay around, I say a long form essay in my instruction here, but we're doing a 3-paragraph sales argument for each segment, following, in this case, a problem, agitate, solution framework to just create messaging that aligns in that marketing framework to that specific audience. I even added like a hero's journey framework inside that approach. And so that is down here, the sales argument section. So that's going to take all of the context and we ran that. And so it's running it through its problem, agitate, solution for each individual section. So again, it's churning out that content that I'm looking at this for ways that my product or service or offer addresses the problem and agitate with our solution here at the end. And so that continues all the way down to all the sales arguments. And again, like I'm running this, if it's not completing each one of the sections, I'm having to go back and maybe change some instruction to say, hey, you skipped a few, go back and start from this number. And from there, moving on to the next section, which is going to be about, more clearly defining the USP, categories you've created, and some of the key things that you'll want to have in terms of keeping it all on one page or a couple pages in terms of this brief for an at a glance. So what's the new category that you've created? What does that mean? How does it help your clients? What is the secret sauce? Putting all of that and generating all that with USPs, again, catered to each one of the target market or the clients that we're going to be creating marketing content for, reasons to support, and 10 campaign marketing ideas. And so all of those were pretty much one copy and paste from the rest of this section of the buyer's brief. And then once we're done with that section, we move on to the brand style guide, which is, if you don't have one of these, it's extremely helpful to have handy, especially if you're working with creative agencies and contractors or anyone internally, for what's your brand voice going to be and all that stuff. So this will organize this next section: visual font ideas, logos, Pantone colors, swapping this out for stuff that's actually true. So Kelly, if you have these already built out, you would just want to swap and change this because it's AI generating ideas for it. But also it's an easy update once you've got the framework here. And then how is your brand going to be seen and speaking to people online? And so From that, you want to define your brand voice. So how are you going to be seen and heard online? That's something that you can set up. And Kelly, you've done this with a number of people with their custom instructions, making sure that you're set up so that your AI is articulating content that you're producing similar, if not, very, very close to how you would at least get some of the words out. Maybe use emojis, maybe you don't. Updating your website and social media profiles. And then the last few sections here are taking into account all the context that we've created for our offer and going and producing AI micro content here. And so Kelly, you've been a proponent of micro content for a long time, as long as I've known you. And that's where we got this process from. So we got thought-provoking quotes, captivating image ideas, short engaging video, headlines for listicles, quick tips for micro content, and then capping it off with WH brainstorming questions to consider. These are the who, what, where, when, why, and how, angled at both positive and negative to give you even more ideas for topics and conversation starters and conversations to have with the market, with things that are going to be top of mind, that they're going to build that topical authority around any given subject that you're talking on and otherwise. So we've got the top, the negative questions, positive questions, micro content, and that brand voice. I'm going to stop sharing right now because that brings us to the end of the brief. And as we wrap things up here, want to put a pause there at the end to circle back in and put the spotlight back again on Kelly, because there's a lot of content, but ideas about how to use this content in developing copy, lead magnets, putting it out there and distributing it, anything that you can maybe walk us through that incorporates not just the buyer's brief and the creative brief, but those micro content questions, the AI brand voice, the WH questions. What are some ways that people can use and generate a report like this themselves, or just order one through us, that they can go and utilize it right away to make the most out of the time and energy that they're investing in this process?
Yeah, and I apologize, for whatever reason, I can't see the chat. So if there's any questions that I can answer, let me know. Well, the first thing that I did is see if I can share my screen. I had a lot of fun with the second part of the brief, and I've been playing around with it. And one of the biggest things that came up for me is that, upon reading this and looking at the sales arguments that came up from the brief with all of my different avatars, is I really wanted to know if my main offer that I'm focusing on, which is my 30-day micro course money machine, my first question is, and this is similar to the lead magnets, is my offer something that all of these avatars might want? Right? Or am I focusing on primarily marketing a thing that maybe only a fraction of my potential clients might want? Right? And so I really was curious to see if my current offer is something that is in alignment with what other people might want. And is it okay if I share my screen?
You should be able to.
Yeah, I see it. Okay. My icons, for some reason, are not there on the bottom, but if I hover over them, they show up. So it's fine. We'll search for them. Okay. So this is something that I ran from that second part of the brief. And what I did was I gave GPT my product. So I talked about my 30-day micro course money machine. I gave it a little bit of information about what happens within that course and who that course is for. I know that I probably could have given it a lot more detail. In fact, if I was going to rerun this, I probably would go back and rerun it and potentially take all of my sales copy on my sales page and then give that as a background, right, to GPT. But I was just kind of testing this first run to see where it went. And then I gave it the sales arguments. So then I copy and pasted all of the sales arguments from the brief for each of my ideal avatars And I also included what the brief gave me in terms of their problem, the agitate, and the solution. So you see here, this is all information from the brief that I gave to GPT. And then I asked GPT to use the sales arguments for each client. And one, identify how my product solves their argument. And then two, to help me brainstorm blog ideas that would speak to the argument with the call to action that leads them to sign up for my program. And you can see here that it first broke down the sales argument for the different clients. And it told me how my one program could actually meet their needs. Which for me, I really did it as just like an assessment or, a validation of, am I actually offering something that all of these people might be able to, all these people might want to be a part of. So it tells me how for each avatar, they can help create personalized micro courses quickly. It enables their scaling practice for the consultant. It provides innovation solutions so that they stay competitive. It will enhance client interaction and retention through these course offerings. For the tech-savvy entrepreneurs, it aligns with their innovative vision, offering scalable course creation tools, helps in them and expand market reach and personalized client services. So what I saw with this as being really valuable is recognizing that, one, what I think my 30-day micro course program does is true, but it does so much for different people, right? And these are things that I don't speak to typically in my content creation. And so it gave me a lot of different perspective in terms of what my one program can do for different avatars, if you will. Like I don't often talk to the innovative side of micro course creation, right? I talk to that very educational kind of, not logical, but like the practical side of why you might want a micro course. And so I'm realizing that I'm potentially missing the target with a lot of this by not talking about the innovation of doing having a micro course or building that client connection. I talk a lot about customer journey, but I don't often talk about client connection, customized client interaction, right? And things like that. And then it gave me a bunch of different blog ideas that obviously I could use ChatGPT for and create this massive amount of content of different blogs that would now speak to these different avatars and still be able to all lead them back to my 30-day program, which I think is super valuable. So you can see here, it did the same thing. Blog ideas, how does your specific program help this avatar, and so forth. And then I asked it to pull, again, the commonalities that all of these arguments had. And so it took me through 8 commonalities that all of them kind of have in common that they might be attracted to wanting to enter a program or maybe do a done-for-you micro course. So now I narrowed it down to 8, right? So from going from 10 different solutions and 10 different blog posts, I've narrowed all of their avatars down to 8, kind of top of mind, what I would say top of mind commonalities in their challenges that now I can speak to. And then from those 8, I asked it to create micro content. So there is that micro content section in the brief that I thought was very accurate. I will probably use a lot of those quotes and things like that in my own content. But now I also have more specific customized micro content that is speaking directly to the 8 things that all of these avatars have in common that I think will probably convert better. Video shorts that I can use, different tips that I might want, listicles, images. ChatGPT, the first one, gave me some very just specific general stuff. So I asked it to expand and give me a little bit more detail. But now I can recognize that potentially, if I talk about efficiency hacks, I'm more likely to be able to provide efficiency hacks that's going to speak to all of those avatars instead of really just focusing on that one. So not only did this kind of expand, right, my perspective and what I see as opportunity for people that I can serve, but I was able to take all of those details and then leverage AI to really get nitty gritty on what are those specific contents, and self-checking, making sure that what I offer is something that would resonate with all of these avatars. Because if it didn't, right, if somehow it said your 30-day program would only resonate with 2, I would probably go back to the drawing board and think about, well, what is that offer that would speak to everybody?
Yeah, no, there's so many ways to brainstorm and to ideate and to discover things that might be like right in front of us that we're just not seeing, and making those connections, which I think is one of the more powerful ways to use AI, is in brainstorming, and is like giving us options to choose from, but also giving us ways to make connections that we might not have ever found there, because we're simply able to connect those dots and running through and discovering these different connections between our market. And some really powerful prompts, simple but powerful prompts that you use there, Kelly. I'm wondering if after we wrap up here, if you'd be open to sharing those as well with the community and folks that are going through, just for kind of like next step level prompts. Sounds like you are, so that's great. We'll work on getting these inside of the library as well. But also don't forget, guys, as we're going through this demonstration right here, it's a lot of content to produce, yes, but it's also a workflow that's very repeatable, and you can get better and better and better at it over time as you go through, as you practice, and as you work with the content brief that you're providing initially, to running it through the workflow, to maybe making some modifications of this yourself, to then taking it to get your ideas into action and getting that content out there, and testing and refining as you continue to do so. Number of different ways that we can go from here. And the last thing that we want to do is, wrap this call up and just say, cool, like go ahead and figure it out on your own from here. We'll be on here next month with another overdose of information overload to you, just sitting there across and watching a demonstration like this, which is why we have structured our community in GenAI University to be the container for additional coaching calls on at least twice a month with Coach Kelly, where you can hop on, you can ask questions leading up to it, you can drop questions to her before calls inside of the community, so that we can get those addressed on these bootcamp calls, but also the growth library and the micro courses and content that are going to be coming out from different sections of the MarketSauce workflow, to working directly with Kelly as your accountability partner and coach, in holding your hand as you go through executing each parts of this workflow inside of your entire video production process. All of that, the resources, the recordings of this training video, and additional training and support, all be found inside of our monthly membership at genaiuniversity.com. Of course, if you're part of our newsletter, then you will get updates about the different tools, resources, insights, templates, and workflows, as well as being able to be active and involved in that community. Kelly, can you give us an idea of a few of the micro courses and additional training and support that we're going to be, we're actively putting together now, but what people can expect over the next few months as we're putting this stuff into action?
Yeah. So, and I know people are asking about the prompts and some of these workflows. My intention is, as I move through workflows and things like that, to turn them into micro courses, so that everybody, can think about, okay, I want to maybe restructure my offer. Where is the micro course where Kelly talks about using this brief to kind of take a look and craft a new offer? Or I'm ready to refresh my blog content. And, where is the blog creation micro course teaching me how to use this brief? You're going to be able to see probably more micro courses that are going to help you run very specific workflows. I know that's one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we get, is that, running these giant workflows sometimes can be really overwhelming. So we're going to get very focused and very specific, so that in the library, you're going to find the workflow for the one thing that you're going to be able to do. So there'll be a lot more breaking things down and taking them section by section. You can also expect that this brief is probably going to be a foundation for most of the micro courses that we create. Obviously, with so much information, it's exactly what all of us need to be able to, I think, leverage AI at that next level and really be able to give it some insight, insightful information. On our last bootcamp call, and a lot of you were on that call, we talked about goals for 2024, and we recognize that all of us have been using AI at a certain level in 2023, but as AI has gotten smarter and has evolved, we also need to evolve, right? So one of the things that I shared is if I use AI and continue to give it my avatar, my niche, my problem, right? The pain points that I was giving it using for 2023, which worked really well because AI is so much smarter. I need to give it probably more information, more detail, right? In order to take it to the next level. Otherwise, am I really using AI's capabilities to the max? Right. And so now we know it can handle this kind of customized, detailed information. And that's exactly what this brief is giving us. So you're going to see, I think, a lot of more trainings that really revolve around this core document, and core documents that I hope many of you are going to run for your different avatars, tweaking your problems, your goals, the things that you can help people with. Because what we're recognizing is that when we give AI more information, it's going to give us better results. And that's something that we've known all along. But I think now we're really seeing the capability of that. So my goal with the micro courses is to give you all quick educational trainings that you can go through that are easy to find. We're going to move away from the 90-minute, here's how you do the thing, where you're searching for that one little piece that you want to do, and really focus on taking calls like this and breaking them down into micro courses so you can find exactly what you're looking for, watch them in 15 or 20 minutes and be able to get to work. So I'm excited to build that piece out. And I'm really excited that all of us inside Gen AI University are going to be able to all work from the same foundational document, because I think that's really going to help ensure that the content, right? The quality of the content is going to be very similar for all of us.
Yeah, and we'll be doing workshops like this where we're demonstrating these workflows at maybe a higher level that are obviously too dense for us to just even cover all this information in a 90-minute period.
Mm-hmm.
But which is why we're turning this into a book and as the cornerstone of all of the content that's going to be coming up around here, because you can create an entire courses on every single section that we demonstrated here. And for those of you that are wanting to go even further into full-blown video production, producing entire like director, like movie level productions. I'm not saying I'm doing that, but like there's obviously ways that you can take what we demonstrated now and apply it at massive levels of scale to just solopreneur going and getting a campaign out there quickly, right? And so this is, at the end of the day, the foundation for how any sort of video production or content production process is going to begin, by like understanding the who is on the other end of the screen or the keyboard, and how are we articulating and how are we creating content that speaks directly to them, especially with how much noise we're going to keep seeing more and more of in the online space, AI content. More content doesn't necessarily mean better, but the better, more targeted content that actually addresses the people that you want to be speaking to and building a relationship with is going to be necessary to stand out. And I don't know if you're in a camp of creating clones of yourself and removing yourself from the process entirely and just putting that out there and being completely removed from the content production side as a face to it. That's totally fine too, if you don't want to be the face to this, right? But your companies, no matter how big or what size, are going to be needing to create content that connects with their audience on the other side. And I think the most obvious way to differentiate yourself right now is to get on camera and talk to people that you can speak on a subject confidently on and knowledgeably, but also to build that relationship with them. And I mean, it's just my take on it, that if all you did, and this is talking to you right now, if all you did was see my content online, but it was a cloned version of me, that was a cloned voice, that was not me actually speaking and sharing with you, that some of you might not care and might not give a shit, to be honest with you, and just be like, whatever, as long as the information is good, I'm fine. I don't even want to see your face, Darby, but whatever. But then the other side is the half of where I have a issue with that is that I don't want to remove myself if I want to be the one that's connecting with people online. And that's why I'm putting myself in positions to create a video podcast, to learn how to use AI editing tools so that I can just quickly get content out there, but focus on making the right kind of content with folks and actually building that relationship. Right? If you have relationships and clients and customers that you want to be connecting with online, video podcasts are one of the best ways to just create content that you can very quickly and easily nowadays reproduce and repurpose for other channels, which is why prior to this call, Kelly and I were talking about doing some sort of content creation challenge around video production and getting on camera, producing one of these video style podcasts as a way that you can take a brief, talk about subjects on it, create the content, publish it, and how fast can we get that cycle kind of going? Just some stuff to keep on the lookout for inside of our community. And otherwise, as well as other workflows and things that we're going to expand into. I see a few questions here about maybe some ad creation workflows, like Facebook ad sets for testing. And we've done some workflows like that as well. But if you guys have specific workflow requests, go into the AI Growth Library and submit a workflow request. We prioritize members above all else and those workflows that we're going to be creating. And other than that, I mean, we're right at the 90-minute mark here, guys. We're not here to just take up all the 2 hours. If we got all the 2 hours blocked off, we wanted to keep this in 60 to 90 minutes and show you the most latest updated edition of MarketSauce buyers briefs and the foundation for the content that we're going to be creating and producing to grow our businesses online in the age of AI. So I thank you guys here for joining and tuning in with us here at the start. If you're a member of our community, you'll have access to the recording and the resources that I provided here so that you can go through and be building these out yourselves. And if you like what you see, but you don't want to spend the hours of time it is that are going to go into learning and refining and producing these yourself, because maybe you've got other things in your business that you'd rather be doing than generating these types of reports, that's okay too. If you go to MarketSauce.ai, we are and have been introducing a done-for-you service where we create these briefs for you, like the one you saw, Kelly, 40-plus pages of comprehensive, in-depth buyer's brief reports, market segment persona, blueprints, and the micro content, the brainstorming questions, the brand style guides, and implementation ideas. Those will all be created, built, and delivered to you in just a few days through our system that we've been working on refining for really years at this point, but only rolling it out over the past few months, getting a lot of great reviews. And all of that is, again, to help with us being a resource that can help you with getting these and putting them into action. But of course, if you want to take these and run them and do them for yourselves or your clients, then just sign up as a member of our community and you can go through these workshops and the bootcamp trainings with Coach Kelly so that you can go ahead and create them for yourself. So that's MarketSauce.ai. If you want one of these done for you or multiple of them done for you, then GenAIUniversity.com to go ahead and subscribe to our membership where you can get access to the resources and all the other goodies that we've got inside. Kelly, before we wrap up here, is there anything that you'd love to leave people with? If anyone just walked away with one thing from today's call, what would you want people to walk away with as they take this brief and move on to the next step?
I think the biggest thing is to don't stop after you run it, right? Like keep going. This is going to be one of like the Bibles for my business. I know I'm going to run more from different aspects, but the important part is don't just run them and have them sitting on your desktop. Use them. If you don't know where to start, just start someplace. I think at the bottom of the brief, if I'm not mistaken, there are some part 5 are implementation ideas. So if you aren't sure where to start, go to the bottom. It talks about, what are some ways you can use the brief. So make sure that you stay in action, right? I know a lot of people like run it and they think that's the end all, but really that's only the beginning. And if you're inside the community, you're going to find on our biweekly bootcamp calls, we're going to be referring back to the brief. We'll be talking about different ways that you can use that. As I use it, I'm of course going to be sharing and we'll be creating micro courses around it. But know that the buyer's brief isn't the final product. It's only the beginning for your business.
Well said, Kelly. Thank you so much. And for everyone here live and on the recording, we'll see you on the other side. Keep calm and AI on. Cheers.